Anthony Arellano. 82,459 Deborah Dr. Indio CA 92,201. Opening parenthesis 760 closing parenthesis 812-3942. These are my findings from being tortured by monsters. We need our country's help, please. You can tell by my findings I am not crazy or making this up. Please help us. Correct. The way that I wrote this makes it seem like I am accusing our government of being terrorist. I am not. This is real, and if you ignore my pleas for help at this point, the terrorists doing this to us are not the only terrorists. Our government agencies are run by terrorists as well. What I was trying to say was if they were not going to help us, they are no better than the terrorists torturing us. Big props to our government. Sorry about my writing, I have dyslexia. We are being tortured by America's GPS system. Hackers have discovered how to make America's GPS system into a quantum optic supercomputer, capable of quantum audio, video surveillance, quantum radio, voice-to-God, quantum nanoparticles, nanoplasmonics, thermoplasmonic, electronic hacking, and more. Here's how. I know how because my family and I have been tortured for more than a decade with this device. GPS rubidium atomic clock plus optical diode 780 nm, 1550 nm, 1560 nm phase locked loop. These things together will provide guidance, positioning of phase locked loop PLL, and power to run this quantum optic supercomputer. A digital phase locked loop or digital phase lock loop DPLL is a control system that generates an output signal whose phase is related to the phase of an input signal. There are several different types. The simplest is an electronic circuit consisting of a variable frequency oscillator and a phase detector in a feedback loop. The oscillator generates a periodic signal, and the phase detector compares the phase of that signal with the phase of the input periodic signal, adjusting the oscillator to keep the phases matched. Simplest analog phase locked loop. Keeping the input and output phase in lockstep also implies keeping the input and output frequencies the same. Consequently, in addition to synchronizing signals, a phase locked loop can track an input frequency, or it can generate a frequency that is a multiple of the input frequency. These properties are used for computer clock synchronization, demodulation, and frequency synthesis. Phase locked loops are widely employed in radio, telecommunications, computers, and other electronic applications. They can be used to demodulate a signal, recover a signal computer information from a noisy communication channel, generate a stable frequency at multiples of an input frequency, frequency synthesis, or distribute precisely timed clock pulses in digital logic circuits such as microprocessors. In a nutshell, this grabs all phase locked loops in targeted area, combines them into the generated DPLL, phasing all electronics to compatible phases, meaning computer hacking. Want to know more on this subject? Please talk to the appropriate people. I am showing a lot with this, and I do not want it to become a how-to page. That being said, let's move on to the quantum optic supercomputer. Phase locked loop is built and now surrounds its target with an electromagnetic field combined with microwaves and radio frequencies. This is where the diode lasers are added. This is where the quantum optic supercomputer is made and contained inside of the DPLL. Probe 1550 nm infrared laser, part 1 of a 3-part laser system to create Doppler cooling on rubidium atoms, also AC band. 1560 nm infrared coupling, part 2 of a 3-part laser system to create Doppler cooling on rubidium atoms, also AC band. C-band is a nanopolymer. Polymer equals laser for collecting and recording data. Audio, video. How video, audio, and much more is extracted from our home or any home when surrounded by a digital microwave optical phase locked loop. We will be taking a look at electronically induced transparency and absorption, 1550 nm laser probe, and 1560 coupling. Creating Doppler cooling of Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 from 186,000 miles per second to 32 miles per hour. Let's get started. Rubidium atoms are held in place by digital optical phase locked loop, Zeeman effect, and optic lasers. 1550 nm probe, 1560 coupling, creating Doppler cooling. Now the third part. A 780 nm signal laser excites the rubidium atom's electron ion into a higher than normal orbit. This creates the light of the one, and when quantum jumping down to a lower state creates the dark zero of a normal binary coding of a normal computer. When the electron ion loses and gains energy, this creates a photon in the quantum optic supercomputer, light and dark states of the 1 and 0 of a normal computer. Adding the 780 laser will also create thermoplasmonic directional energy weapon. Target human with body filled with water. That would be anyone, right? Oh, and I want it to be no, these fuckers also were burning my dog. Piper's vagina we took here to the vet and they had no idea what it was. Now we know. Is surrounded by Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 add 780 nm equals thermoplasmonic. When the Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 electron gets excited, it absorbs all of these things like a tape recorder: electromagnetic radiant energy, radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, T-rays, and gamma rays. When it loses energy, it releases all of these things onto a 1560 nm band like a tape recorder, sending it to the phase-locked loop to be demodulation played back. This is how quantum optics video is record and viewed. V2K. One of the main weapons of use with this system is voice-to-skull V2K, voices in your head brought on with radio frequencies. I uncovered this by myself from the mind-numbing pain they inflicted on us. Microwave auditory effect hearing starts at 0.2 GHz to around 3 GHz when adding a usable radio frequency like SDR to a differential vector phase locked loop. That would be at 1575.42 MHz, which is equal to 1.575 GHz, well within the range to create microwave auditory effect hearing in a differential vector phased locked loop. How a terrorist is able to direct audio from their cell phone directly into your head. Mobile identification number. Binary phase shift keying modulation. Added to the CA code 1.023 MHz of GPS, then B becomes L1 1575.42 MHz microwave signal, also an equal to 1.575 GHz, added to digital differential vector phased locked loop, becoming radio frequencies over fiber. This in turn becomes microwave auditory effect hearing to anyone inside the DVPLL, allowing tortured victim to hear radio frequencies and hear terrorists torture them via V2K, voice to skull, via cell phone. Believe me, this is torture. Help USPLZ. This electromagnetic field can send a ping, collect frequency envelope, and collect IP address from your home. Now your IP address, it is converted into a binary added to CA code 1.023 MHz, then joining with L1 1575.42 MHz, turning your IP address into an IP microwave address. Now this can be done with any IP address, and it is also done to insert radio frequencies. DPLL is put around a target. The target is saturated with microwaves, and this causes the frontal lobe of the brain and the cochlea to swell, letting radio frequencies bypass the ear canal and eardrum, bouncing off the cochlea and onto the frontal lobe, producing sound like a cochlea implant. This is called microwave auditory effect hearing. The radio frequencies are added to the CA code 1.023 MHz on the GPS, becoming 1, then moves to be joined with L1 1575.42 MHz and sent out to be wrapped around the frequency comb lasers. This is called radio frequencies over fiber. Now remember, the DPLL is made up of all of this, so consider it a dome of radio frequencies for now. The added frequencies can now be dialed up with SDR, radio phones, or any two-way radio like a police would use, and more than one frequency can be attached to the equals multiple audio signals, hearing voices, harassment, terrorists. Now the same thing can be done in reverse. Radio frequencies in rubidium atoms Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 love each other, and the DPLL cavity is filled with Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 terrorist. Add another frequency to the CA code and is sent out via L1 1575.42 MHz, becoming part of DPLL for listening, because you cannot use one frequency to listen and use as a microphone at the same time. The added frequency is added to the DPLL dome, and anything in that dome can be heard, even a whisper. The RF uses the Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 atoms as a conductor. This makes the whole DPLL a speaker, which can send back a live feed of audio to whoever set up a DPLL, and wherever a DPLL placed, it can also be dialed up as a radio channel frequency. Because Rb to the power of 8 to the power of 7 is a metal and RF are electricity, they are a match made in heaven.